You are now tuned into Daily Discussions with Dina. Join in the discussion right here, Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m.
Welcome to your Daily Discussions with Dina. As always, if you have not already, I invite you to subscribe and join in the discussion. Housing and shelter today. I am not sure how far the prices have risen in your town, city, or state, but locally, the cost for everything is just preposterously absurd. And that most definitely includes renting or purchasing a home today. The cost of living is completely nonsensical today. The reasoning behind it is questionable for me as well. But there is no denying the expensive cost of basic shelter today and why we see so many homeless people in need of housing. It is just unreasonably expensive today. I have never seen so many homeless people ever. Here in the area of the country in which I live, houses that were considered to be dilapidated were renting for $700 or $800, but it is now going up to $1,500 and sometimes more a month. Even the cost to rent just basic houses that haven't even been updated, they're just too costly today in what we would even call bad neighborhoods. The prices are just outrageous. It's a drastic increase, and I am sure the rental industry is seeing the effects of this economy in many areas, and especially with some of their tenants. They may have had to evict some. The eviction rate is high. Late rental payments, getting those monthly payments. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are unable to pay some of these prices. And the kinds of tenants that are applying to rent, most of them, the income level is not there, so they are having to have roommates to assist them in renting or perhaps even purchasing a house today. And you know what can happen sometimes with subleasing or various tenants that lease with these lease agreements. It is hard to get good tenants, and when people find them, they try to keep them. But we all know that stuff happens. So I wanted to know how other states and localities were faring in the midst of these outrageous increases in the cost of shelter, renting and buying. And whoa, it just seems so impractical to have the price to rent or buy so expensive, knowing that there are no real jobs in certain areas that can fortify these rates that people are expecting, or people who are renting out these places, the amount they are asking. You have to look at what kind of jobs and pay wages are available in your area. Unless you have an abundance of people with the ability to pay these costs, at some point it is going to have an effect on supply and demand, and you will see the effects represented in your community one way or the other. Of course, there are some professions that this increase will not affect, but it is necessary for the most part for a municipality to have a population that has the majority population at least has the capability and the resources job-wise to pay the amount that are being demanded in these particular areas. And we know that the majority of the population is the working poor for the most part. So I am curious to know how this will not create a real hardship on them. That will in turn affect the renters of the property, the builders, the community, and possibly some of these small townships, tax-wise, especially at this time when the economy and the recession that we are in the midst of, that no one seems to want to acknowledge or even admit exists. As we know, each city has a median household income index, and the data for average annual household income in one local area around here is $62,638, while the median household income sits at $38,350 per year. Residents aged 25 to 44 earn $37,574, while those between 45 and 64 have a median wage of $49,342. In contrast, people younger than 25 and those older than 65 tend to earn less at $27,837 and $36,355 respectively. Now, if we look at a random city, let's say Macon, Georgia, household income, the Census ACS one-year survey reports that the median household income for Macon, Georgia metro area was $53,397 in 2021. And the latest figures available shows Macon median household income is $13,162 lower than the median Georgia household income and $16,320 less than the U.S. median household income. Now, 2022 Metro income data, including Macon median household income, will not be released until September of this year. Now, as a rule, by financial experts, they recommend that no more than 30% of your monthly income should be used on housing costs. It should be used, it's supposed to leave you with plenty of funds that are left over to cover other living expenses that enable you to work toward whatever financial goals you may have. Remember now, your gross monthly is your total income before taxes or other deductions are taken out. If you are currently renting, that 30% should include rent and all of your utility costs like heat, water, electricity, homeowners insurance. All of that is supposed to be included in this 30%. So if you earn $75,000 a year before taxes, you spend no more than $1,875 a month on your housing. Now, the 30% rule is based on how much a family can reasonably spend on housing and still have enough to afford everyday expenses, like food, clothing, transportation, everyday stuff. So if it is your intent to purchase a home, some financial experts actually recommend using the 28-36 rule as a way of determining what it is, what amount you can afford for a house. The 28-36 rule stipulates that in order for a home to be considered within a person's budget, that person must have their housing expenses such as mortgage payments, taxes, and insurance payments. And all of this shouldn't exceed 28% of your gross monthly income. Your total debt, including your credit cards, your student loans, and car loan payment, that is not supposed to exceed 36% of your gross monthly income. Now, the calculation includes the entire household. And what that means is if you are married and your spouse works, their salary and debts have to also be included in these calculations. So realistically, we all know that how much house you can afford can depend on multiple personal factors and not just the financial aspect like availability, family size, location, and maintenance, and so much more. But I am actually witnessing some big store closures and company closures down here, and some unexpected businesses that are closing and having layoffs that are not always in the news. And I'm just wondering, how can what's happening as far as employment, how can it affect these people that want houses or having the ability to pay to live in a decent area to afford to rent at all? So when these businesses close around us or lay off, it affects people and their pocketbooks. And often it is difficult sometimes to find a place of employment immediately that will pay the same wages or better than the company that you left. So when you're looking at these ratios and you're looking for a house, you have to be realistic about what you can afford when it comes to renting or buying a home. I am, like I said, witnessing some big store closures down here. I mean, I don't know if everybody else is seeing what I'm seeing, or perhaps it's just an illusion that I see. When these big businesses close or lay off, it affects people and how they live. It affects their pocketbooks, and often it is difficult sometimes to find a place of employment immediately that will pay the same wages or better than the company that you left, because most people have been with a company for a long time. They have earned regular wage increases as a condition of their employment. So some may actually find themselves having to accept a lower salary or change careers altogether. That is, if they are lucky enough to find a job that actually pays a decent salary and that will keep up with the actual cost of living. And how many jobs are out there like that today? You will have to say good luck with finding that today. Like I said, there are a lot of businesses closing, and it has to be affecting the income of these people. In my area, places like Office Depot, Kirkland's, local restaurants, I have been seeing these places shut down this year. They have just suddenly closed or are announcing that they are closing. And there is no way we can continue to pretend that we don't see the large number of businesses today that are laying off workers. Please don't tell me you are not aware of or are paying attention to the job closures and layoffs that are happening nationally as well. Music streaming service Spotify said it's cutting 6% of its global workforce. And then Amazon cutting 18,000 workers. Then there's Google that announced it was slashing 12,000 jobs. And Microsoft also announced plans to eliminate 10,000 jobs, or about 4.5% of its 220,000 global workforce. Lots of layoffs from these big tech companies as well. Wayfair Online Home Goods also said that they were going to lay off about 1,750 workers. So there is indeed issues with being able to afford these high rent and cost to actually have a place to live. Many people may be breaking and are straining from the combination of this high inflation, the low wages, because as much as we would like to ignore or pretend like the economy is reviving, and it may be in certain areas, but I see recession and I'm seeing a lot of financial turmoil that is like it's there, but people want to try to see it through rose-colored glasses. So there are things going on around us that are giving us clues as to what is about to happen. One of my relatives shared with me that houses that were once $75,000 to $100,000 to buy are now being put on the market for like $250,000. And people are being asked to have at least $10,000 in cash to pay down on these houses in order to purchase, or if they're planning to rent, it's like $1,500 and $2,000 rent in this area. And you have to ask, where are the jobs to support this kind of rent increase? It just makes no sense to me. Most jobs here do not pay enough to afford them the cost of those dwellings. Part of the reason for these drastic housing costs is that big corporations and organizations are getting into the real estate market. And as always, it is rooted in greed. Corporate greed, that is. These big companies, and even some churches, I understand, and other organizations come in, and what they are doing, they are buying up blocks of houses. They are buying up subdivisions. They purchase these homes, and even I've seen them do trailer parks. But once they acquire these properties, they raise the rent on all of them, and they raise them so high that in effect, they are setting the tone for the community, and they are having effect on the prices we see for rentals, as well as the cost to purchase homes today. And in essence, they have a big role in controlling the housing market today, helping to create this unnecessary hardship that we see. And as they say, and I totally agree with, just follow the money. I think the government should limit what big corporations have the right to do when it comes to controlling the market, because that is a way for them to profit. But at what cost? Are these companies guilty of manipulating the housing or real estate market? For the most part, unless families are wealthy or have access to several streams of income or resources, there will definitely have to be some form of rental assistance, as well as grants or programs designed specifically to help in reducing the cost of attaining home ownership today. If not, with this inflation and in this current economy, I think we can expect to see more homeless families and individuals than ever before, because the ratio is not working for the masses in this society today. Housing prices and home rentals, as they are, cannot continue to be sustained in this economy. Something has to give in order for most people to be able to keep a roof over their heads and their family's head today. Now, what do you think about the housing and rental costs today? Does it affect you? Let me know your thoughts on this particular issue. Subscribe and leave your comment on this topic. And be sure to join me Monday through Friday for your daily discussions with Dina. Ta-ta!
This concludes the Daily Discussions with Dina. Join us Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.